spoke to Joe Minarik. For more on the jobs report, he's the Senior Vice President and Director of Research for the Committee for Economic Development, and I asked him, how do we translate these March numbers?
Take this month's numbers. They were not beautiful. They are not inspiring. They don't tell you that we've got an economy that is growing anywhere like what we would want. But there are factors involved. One of them is the weather. Another one is the reduction in employment and economic activity with respect to oil, which is a minus that bears a plus because we expect that we will get some additional consumption out of that. So there will be economic growth in other areas that will compensate. I think that if you look over a period of months and you look at where the trend is, I think the trend is really not changed, and that is a really undersized recovery from an oversized downturn that we had late in the last decade.
A lot of people blame the weather. Is that true?
I don't think there's any doubt that the weather did reduce employment somewhat. If, to the extent that that was an issue, we ought to see that come back in the next 30 days.
Janet Yellen at the Fed has talked about raising rates. We are continuing to debate when, whether it's June, July, August. It could be tomorrow for all we know. But here's the interesting thing is, how does that affect companies when they consider either expanding their business or hiring employees? Does it affect their decision making?
Well, to some extent it depends on where you get your financing. If you're able to sell a long-term bond, you want to sell it now when rates are low. But of course, there's another part of the corporate world where we observe large holdings of cash. In a sense, then you're looking at the opportunity cost of using that cash. How much is it going to cost you to spend it as opposed to invest it? And if interest rates are going to go up, you might think that you might have investment opportunities for that cash in the financial markets later. It can cut both ways.
I keep hearing this one particular theme over and over again, and perhaps you can help us better understand it, but the labor participation rate. What is it, and why have we become more and more interested in it of late?
A lot of people looked at the state of the job market in the worst of the financial downturn and found that they could not find jobs. To some extent, you had young people who might have stayed in school longer because they couldn't find jobs at the time. You might as well buck up your resume and be stronger in the job market later. There are older people who lost a job, couldn't find a new one because employers are reluctant to hire older people because they've got less of a time to get a return from investing in that person and teaching them the ropes on the new job. So we've been trying to figure out for some time, what's the balance there? How many of these people who have left the labor force are going to come back? How many of them are gone for good and have essentially become early retirees?
And we want more people to work because, first of all, they're working, so it's productive. And second, if they're working, they're making money, which means they're more likely to spend more money, right? That's both sides are good for the economy. Is that
exactly
the right way to look at it?
Exactly. They're producing output in the economy, and also they're not collecting perhaps Social Security reduced early benefits. So if they're working, the system's better off on both sides.
So with less people participating into the workforce, some would argue that we should see more significant wage growth, which we really haven't to any meaningful degree. And I'm wondering, what do you tell the folks that have been very critical of that particular statistic, that why have we not seen wages go up given the contraction, and not only the unemployment rate coming down, but the labor participation rate?
Economies are weak pretty much all the way around the world. Even China growing at what from U.S. perspective is a robust number, it's a number that's smaller than it had been. So you don't have the demand that causes consumers to get excited and go out and buy, which causes producers to want to hire more people so that they can meet that demand, or to invest what they have to do to what they would have had to do to expand capacity. the flywheel of the economy, which in its rotation maintains stability, has slowed down. And what we need to do somehow is to set that spark which convinces consumers to buy, so that producers hire, so that the labor market tightens and wages begin to rise.